Get fired up, Duck fans. This is the Oregon Football Report. I am your host, Will Ortner. And ESPN, they're diving into the 2026 college football season a little bit early, but hey, you know we're college football here 365 days out of the year. And ESPN went through the top 25 teams from the last season and ranked their best returning player, the most important player to that team. And I think it's pretty obvious who that person was for the Oregon Ducks, but I do think it is important to kind of dive into it and then dive into my key returners around that number one key returning player for the Oregon football team, because it really does feel like it's a natty or bust type of a year. Dante Moore is going to help bring the Oregon Ducks where they need to be and potentially get him, Dan Lanning, and the rest of the Oregon football team that first national championship. We're going to dive into that in just 1 minute, but we got to talk about the St. Patrick's Day merch here at chatsports.com/duckgreen. Look at that t-shirt. That thing is so freaking sweet green, and I've got the black. I absolutely love it. The Oregon drinking team is only going to be having these t-shirts out for a little bit of time left because, well, we're almost into March. Only $29.99. Go grab a t-shirt for yourself. Super comfortable. You're going to like the way that you look when you wear it. You can go find those down in the comment section and description of today's video. You just got to click on that link and it'll take you right where you need to go. Obviously, it's not shocking. I kind of let the cat out of the bag when I said that Dante Moore was going to be the most important returning player for the Oregon Ducks, and ESPN kind of reciprocated that line of thinking. Now, it makes sense. He's the best quarterback that's coming back into college football, and I don't care what anybody else has to say about Arch Manning. Dante Moore is the best quarterback that is returning, and I think that we're going to see why it's so important and why he's more important than anybody else, because of the position that he's returning at. Max Olson of ESPN had this to say. His decision to run it back with defensive linemen Jamari Washington, Tatum Tuioti, Alexander and Evan Stewart all staying in school positions the Ducks to have a serious national championship contender again in year 5 under Dan Lanning. Now, I'll tell you right now, I am pretty darn fired up about what this Oregon football team is bringing to the table. And Dante Moore, the star quarterback, returning to the Ducks instead of going into the NFL draft, kind of signifies that not only does he think that this could be a national championship team, but I think the entire program understands that if the things go the right way and he's able to stay healthy and the entire team's able to stay healthy, that a national championship could befall the Oregon football team. If you love that Dante Moore returned to Eugene, go in and smash the like button on today's video. We're trying to drive our like numbers up. Hit that thumbs up button because you love the Oregon Ducks. You love Dante Moore. You want the Ducks to win a national championship. When we look at the stat line for Dante Moore in the 2025 season, obviously he had a stellar year. Didn't really turn the football over, threw the football extremely well during the regular season, and of course had a high completion percentage. What I think is the most important thing about Dante Moore returning is that all of the teams that are ahead of the Ducks, and honestly all the teams behind the Ducks until you get to USC and Jaden Maiava, is there are no key returning quarterbacks other than Dante Moore. Dante Moore is going to be the front runner early on, at least he should be, to be the number one player in college football. He should be the Heisman frontrunner because he's earned that type of love. That's the type of player that he is. And I understand why ESPN ranks him as the number one key returner for the Oregon football team. He should be. Most important player in the most important position. That being said, the rest of the video, we're going to dive into some other key returning players for the Oregon football team and why I think they're going to be able to help the Oregon Ducks go all the way to a national championship. And that's why you're going to hit that sub button as well, because we're going to have you covered throughout 2026 on the Oregon football team. We love the Ducks. You love the Ducks. So let's watch the Ducks together. The fifth guy that I want to talk about when it comes to my top players returning to the Oregon Ducks is Tatum Tuiote. And if I'm putting Tatum Tuiote at number 5, which, by the way, I do lead the Tatum Tuiote fan club. If I'm putting him in as the 5th most important player returning, I'll tell you what, there's some key Oregon football players that are coming back to this program. When you look at the numbers for Tuiote, they jump off the page. Over 57 total tackles, 7 sacks, and he was flying around all year long. This guy is a Tasmanian devil. He is unblockable in college football. There is no one that can stay in front of Tuioti because he does a fantastic job of not only beating the offensive linemen if he needs to beat them with speed, but he can also beat them with power. He is so strong. He is so physical. He is the type of player that if he was 2 inches taller, he would be being talked about as the number 1 overall pick or number 2 overall pick in this draft or next year's draft. That's how freaky he is. There is no stop to him. He is a grinder. He goes. He will make sure that he does everything in his power to get to the quarterback, to get to the ball carrier, to get to the wide receiver. He is the perfect embodiment of what this Dan Lanning defense is going to be, and now I can say what this Coach Hampton defense is going to be. I love everything about Tatum Tuioti. I think that he epitomizes what this defense can be, and he's only going to get better. He led the Oregon Ducks in sacks last year. I think that him and another person that could potentially end up on this list, wink, wink, nod, nod, are going to be battling it out for that again. But more importantly, you're also going to get a primetime leader. Next player that I want to talk about for the Oregon football team when I'm talking about returning players, that's Evan Stewart. Evan Stewart obviously did not get to play this year because he was dealing with that knee injury that he suffered in the summer. I believe that Stewart is going to be a primetime performer for this team when he comes back. There was a hope that he could come back in the postseason, wasn't able to make it happen. That's okay. Here's what his stats were in 2024, and I think that he can expand upon them. I'm really excited to see what he and Dante Moore can do on the field because it felt like they were primed, loaded up, ready to go for a big season this year if he doesn't end up getting hurt. I cannot wait to see Evan Stewart back on the field because it's going to open things up for guys like DeCorian Moore. It's going to open things up for Johnson over at that tight end position, Jeremiah McClellan as well. And it's even going to open up things for the rushing attack as well. I cannot wait to see what Stewart is able to do for this squad. I'm going back to QB1. Did you expect Dante Moore to return to the University of Oregon, yes or no? I think if you watched our videos here, you know that I had a pretty pleasant surprise when Dante Moore announced that he would be coming back to the University of Oregon. Our number 3 returning Duck. I think this is an interesting one, and I think if I would have told you at the beginning of last year that I was excited to see Bear Alexander not only suit up with the Oregon Ducks, but return to the Oregon football team in 2026, you would have thought that I was crazy because, well, Alexander, he's been known for going to a bunch of different schools in his college football career. He's stuck here at Oregon. He was fantastic, had a ton of tackles from an interior defensive lineman position that you do not expect a ton of tackles from. He did a great job of getting after the passer as well, and he's just an absolute freak. I think I could have picked Amari Washington or Bear Alexander for this. Bear Alexander, to me, he just, well, has a few more tackles, and so that's why I put him here. If the Ducks continue to build through the trenches, you are always going to see the Ducks be at the top level. The Big Ten is known for having great offensive and defensive linemen, especially once you get into those upper tier teams, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States of the world. And the reason why I think you've seen Oregon transition well into the Big Ten and why you haven't seen USC or UW necessarily transition from the Pac-12 well into the Big Ten is because of their offensive and defensive line play, and Bear Alexander is the epitome of that. Number 2 player that I want to talk about here for the Oregon football team is the tight end, and that's Jamari Johnson. Now, for this list, I did try and pick guys who had the opportunity to go somewhere else, and Jamari Johnson, I think, is going to end up being the second tight end in a row for the Oregon football team to go in the first round. The kid is stellar. Now, the reception numbers are a little bit lower. You have to remember he's the second tight end. And as the postseason really got going, I thought that Johnson took a gigantic step forward. He's a little bit bigger than Kenyon Sadiq. He's a little bit stronger than Kenyon Sadiq. He's a little bit more of a traditional tight end than Kenyon Sadiq. And while Kenyon Sadiq, I'm not here to attack him, I think that kid is unfreaking believable, and someone's going to get an absolute demon in the NFL draft. I think that Johnson can fit into this offense maybe a little bit better, and he's going to be able to build upon the successes that he had at the end of last season. And those successes that he had at the end of last season, They're pretty darn sweet. I'll tell you what, Dante Moore and him have clearly developed a very nice chemistry. Last player that I want to talk about is young concrete himself, Matayo Uiagalelei. He's the number one returning Duck for me, not named Dante Moore. And I think that some people, when they hear me say this, are going to go, Will Ortner, you are crazy. Because when you look at the stat line, Tatum Tuiote's stat line is actually going to jump off the page a little bit more than Uiagalelei's. He's going to have a little bit less sacks. The tackles are going to be a little bit less. But Matayo Uiagalelei made a big focus in the offseason not on his pass rushing abilities, but on his run stopping abilities. I think that Uiagalelei is finally going to be able to put it all together this year. He was a little bit better against the run this past season. His year before that, he was better at getting after the quarterback, and it actually led to Uiagalelei leading the Oregon Ducks and the Big Ten, if I remember correctly, in sacks. I think that young concrete is going to put it all together. He's going to be the ultimate package, the ultimate player that he can be. And I think that when you have three returning players, and honestly, it really could have been four if I wanted to do it that way. When you have 3 to 4 guys in your key returning bucket that all play on your defensive line, you are going to be a nasty defensive line. You are going to be a scary defensive line. You are going to be a defense that makes other teams uncomfortable. I'm excited to see what this Oregon football team can do. And I think that not only is Dante Moore returning going to be massive, but I also believe that these other players returning is going to help propel Oregon forward. Now, fingers crossed, everyone stays healthy. ESPN sent a powerful message to the Oregon football team. The Oregon football team is going to send a very powerful message to the rest of college football. Which Oregon football player are you most excited to see in 2026? Let me know down below in the comment section. I think for me personally, if we're going with someone that is returning, can't keep my eyes off Tatum Tuiote. That guy just balls out, and I love everything that he does. If we're talking about a new addition to the team, well, you might have to stick around for that video next week. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button on today's video. We always love and appreciate it when you can come on in and hit that thumbs up button. It just lets us know that we're doing a quality job, and we always want to put a quality product out for you. Make sure that you hit that sub button as well. I understand that it's February, and you might not be fully dove into college football. It's time to start ramping up. Spring ball's right around the corner. You don't want to be left out on any big-time news from the Oregon Ducks. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video, and Sko Ducks!